Dis- District 1 Supervisor Alejo. District 2 Supervisor Church.
Present.
District 3 Supervisor Lopez.
Present.
District 4 Supervisor Askew. District 5 Supervisor Adams.
Present.
City of Carmel by the Sea.
Yeah.
City of Del Rey Oaks.
Here via Zoom.
City of Gonzales.
Here.
City of Greenfield. City of King City.
Present.
City of Marina.
Delgado's here if Medina Dirkson's not.
City of Monterey.
Present.
City of Pacific Grove.
Here.
City of Salinas. City of Sand City.
Here.
City of Seaside.
Here.
City of Soledad. Ambag.
Here,
Caltrans District 5.
Here.
Monterey Bay Air Resource District.
Present.
Monterey Regional Airport District.
Here.
Monterey Salinas Transit. City of Watsonville. CSUMB.
Present via Zoom.
Chair, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, well, you join me in the pledge of allegiance. Ready? Yeah.
United States. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you, everyone. I will now move on to public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak on any item that is not on the agenda? Again, I'll ask, is there any member of the public who would like to speak on any item that is not on the agenda? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there any members of the board who like to pull an item from the consent agenda? Or any member of the public who would like to speak on any of the consent agenda items? We'll ask, is there any member of the public who would like to speak on any of the consent agenda items? Hearing and seeing none, I'll bring this back on the board for action.
Move consent.
Second. First, with Lopez, second with Alejo, roll call please.
District 1 Supervisor Alejo.
Aye.
District 2 Supervisor Church.
Aye.
District 3 Supervisor Lopez.
Aye.
District 4 Supervisor Askew. Aye. District 5 Supervisor Adams.
Aye.
City of Carmel by the Sea.
Aye.
City of Del Rey Oaks.
Aye.
City of Gonzales.
Aye.
City of King City.
Aye.
City of Marina.
Aye.
City of Monterey.
Aye.
City of Pacific Grove.
Aye.
City of Salinas. City of Sand City.
Aye.
City of Seaside.
Aye.
City of Soledad. Chair, the motion passes.
All right, thank you. We'll now move on to item 4, election of officers. Myself and past chair Supervisor Adams have met to discuss the nominating slate. We have decided to move the first vice chair, second vice chair forward, so it'd be Supervisor Lopez as chair. And second vice chair was Potter, right? Yes. Second, Dave Potter to first vice chair. I'm sorry who had moved after that. It was Wendy Askew to second vice chair. And that Supervisor Alejo would then fill the county seat, and board member Fedori would continue as city representative. Process wise, any questions on the nomination committee's recommendations?
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just going to move it. I don't have a question.
No, I'm waiting for the question. Yeah.
I was going to move the slate.
Second, I guess that's required. On the question, I'm just trying to make sure next, as we move forward,
I'm considerate, everybody else considered, so I just want to put that out there. But everybody that you named, perfect people, so.
Thank you. So we have a first with Supervisor Church, second with Mayor Oglesby. Is there any member of the public who'd like to speak on this item? Can I ask any member of the public would to speak on this item? Since no members that are on Zoom are voting today, I will ask voice votes. All in favor? Against? Abstain? Passes unanimously. And I'm gladly hand over.
Thanks, Mike.
So then at this point, I believe we have a note of appreciation, a token of the appreciation of TAMC.
We were gonna do that
As part of the next.
Yes.
Okay. This is what is important. All right. With that, we have concluded item 4. Thank you very much, Mike, for the opportunity to lead this organization. I think the leadership you've provided in the last year set us up so beautifully for an incredible year ahead. I know you guys just see tough fights, but you also have continued to advocate for the future of transportation in Monterey. So I, as one person who's been able to watch your leadership on this particular body and through so many other avenues, want to say thank you for all that you've done for this organization and for our entire region here on the Central Coast. Another round of applause for Mike.
Okay. Item 3,
So at this point, we're going to move to item 5, Transportation Excellence Awards. We'll go over to-
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. We are presenting our 22nd annual TAMC Transportation Excellence Awards. And so I'll walk you through the presentation. Each year, what we like to do is recognize individuals, businesses, or organizations that make a difference to help improve our transportation network. So these are the categories in which we make awards. First one is an individual award. The second category is the business or group award. The third one is a program award. And then the fourth one is a project award. So let me walk you through the honorees that we're representing today. The first one that we're going to honor is an individual award honoree. And he is here with us. This is Professor Amir Atia. He is a graphic design professor at CSU Monterey Bay. And he has worked with his graphic design students to create the first traffic gardens in Monterey County. Now, in addition to meeting regularly with our staff, he also met with the other Safe Routes to School partners over a 2-year period. And he attended the King City Steering Committee meetings to hear directly feedback from the community about what their needs are and what their desires were for this particular project. The project was done in partnership through the Sustainable City Year program designed to give students a real world experience and help local agencies with their projects. So the traffic garden is designed by Professor Amir Atia and his 2 students who are here on the screen, Gabby Lazarus and Monica Ocampo. It will help teach safety and driving skills to hundreds of students across Monterey County. So some of you are probably wondering, what on earth is a traffic garden? Okay. So let's walk through what a traffic garden is. So a traffic garden is, first of all, a safe and fun space. It's a place where children can learn the rules of the road and practice bicycling and driving skills and a safe environment.
Teresa,
Yes.
could you speak a little louder, please?
Sure. They feature small size, is that there? Is that level? Fine. Okay. They feature small size streets with scaled down traffic features to teach how to navigate streets and traffic. So what's the process of designing a traffic garden? Professors and his students, first of all, they did a Google Earth search to find the location. So in this particular case, this is Prunedale Elementary School, and you can see by the red lines here that that's the area that they identified where the traffic garden would go. And then they do a site visit. So in this case, this is Ork Terrace Elementary School in Seaside. And then they do the design process. So the first is what they identified as a low fidelity graphic design sketch. So this is an example of one of the sketches. This is a second example of a low design. And then that evolves into what is called a high fidelity graphic design sketch. So this is an example of one. And this is the second example. So what you see here is what ultimately can then be transferred and designed for streets and playgrounds here. So, and then comes installation. This is the installation at Seaside. In Seaside, it's for Terrace Elementary School. You can see the graphic traffic design here, traffic guard on the pavement at the school. And so it is for these reasons that we're going to congratulate Professor to please come up. And also, do you mind if we have our board chair and past chair and executive director come up? We're going to present you with some certificates. Your students are not here, so we're going to give you their certificates if you will kindly give them to them as well. And Christina, thank you for taking photos.
Where do you want us, Teresa?
Probably right here. I think that would be easier.
No, there isn't.
Professor, please come up.
Thank you.
You and your students.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for your great work.
You guys are right in the video. Maybe move over by Todd, maybe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Professor, did you want to say anything to the group? You're more than welcome to.
No, actually, thank you for the opportunity. It's a great pleasure to involve the students in such projects. I also would like to thank Ariana. I noticed that she is on Zoom, but she was a great help. She was a great coordinator, and I believe that this was a good experience for the students to know what graphic design is beyond the traditional logo branding and UX, UI, but there are other fields of graphic design that can help the community so needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So the next award is going to go to the Business and Group Award. So you learned about what a traffic garden is, but then how do you implement that? So this next person that we're going to honor, this next company, is very much integral to that. So we're recognizing Boyd's Asphalt Services. So Boyd's Asphalt Services strike 13 traffic gardens across Monterey County in the fall of 2023. And as I may have mentioned earlier, these are the first traffic gardens in Monterey County. So this is where the installations occurred. They put 12 traffic gardens on school playgrounds throughout our county: South County, Salinas, the Monterey Peninsula, North County, and then one traffic garden in a public space, which was the San Antonio Park there in King City. And what's really important about recognizing them today is that as you look at this traffic garden at Bayview, as they went above and beyond, and particularly we want to recognize them. We want to recognize Justin Estasi, who was here today, because they went above and beyond and really prioritized this project. You know, when the winter comes, the rainy season comes, right? So they had a really short window to get all of them done in a quick amount of time. And so we are recognizing this organization business, not only for their effort, but the fact that they went above and beyond to make sure that we could have these in place. And so, Justin, please come up. We'd like to recognize you and recognize Boyd's Asphalt for going above and beyond and helping to install these 13 traffic gardens in Monterey County. So hang on there, but stand by Todd for just a second, because I want people to see who you are, but I also want to tell them what we did. So we introduced these traffic gardens in King City. This was our big grand opening to let the public know that we had these in our community. So this is the traffic garden in King City. We made up some flyers to announce the grand opening. We had a ribbon cutting ceremony in December. It was originally scheduled for November. The rain came and we pushed it off to December. And then we're gonna see if we can play this.
Yeah, the next.
All right. So this was at the ribbon cutting, and these are the kids who then took to trying it out. And so this gives you a real sense of what the design looks like, how it functions. Kids are having fun. And some of them went the right way and some of them went the wrong way. But there was staff there that helped direct the guide, right? And getting them at intersections, learning how to stop. Going over, but you get the idea, right? This is, so we have 13 of these are all across our county. And really, it's about teaching kids safety and skills. That's here. To the next slide. So it is for all those reasons that we are going to congratulate and recognize Boys Asphalt Services and particularly Suggested. We took the lead on that. And thank you for the work that you did and congratulate you with the Transportation Excellence Award.
Gonna say something?
I just want to appreciate the opportunity for you guys having us do this work. Not something we've ever done before. So I've been doing this a lot of years and it's kind of cool to do something new. And I appreciate TAMC, especially Ariana, who was awesome through the whole process. And we look forward to doing more for you guys.
Thank you. She spoke very highly of the work that you did.
Yeah, she was a great work. She did really good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So the next award is a program award, and the first one goes to Monterey Salinas Transit for their Better Bus Network. During the pandemic, it became clear to Monterey Salinas Transit that social inequities existed in their distribution of their transit services. As a result, the agency took a step back and re-examined their mission, their vision, and their values to gain a better understanding of their purpose in the community and for their employees with a goal of doing better for the passengers who depend upon them every day. And out of that planning, of the self-examination became what they called and created Better Bus Network. The network is a redesigned transit system focused in areas where service was needed most in historically disadvantaged and underrepresented communities. As a result, MST riders save time, they save money, and ultimately they save our planet through faster, more frequent, and reliable services. As a result of this Better Bus Network, let me show you some of the results that they've gotten so far. 25% increase in boarding time from the previous year. An average travel time has decreased by 30 minutes. A 20% increase in service near places where people live and work with service frequency of 30 minutes or better. 98% of the cash paying passengers saw a 36% reduction in their fare. 82% of passengers state that they're satisfied with the new fare structure. And 92% of the passengers are satisfied with the new service. It is for those reasons that we congratulate you, Carl, Monterey Salinas Transit, and anyone else who's here.
Thank you. This was a team effort. The whole of MST, every employee was touched. The people at bus stops,
implementing the bus stops, over 100-page work order and changes in bus stops and benches. Every coach operator was trained. The planning staff did a multi-year effort, and the results speak for themselves. It truly makes our organization feel like champions, which is why today I'm wearing the Honolulu blue and silver the champion Detroit Lions in my hometown. So never really wanted to bring controversy. I thought I'd bring that in. So.
It's
all good until the line came up.
Okay, this next project award is going to the city of Marina for their California Avenue pedestrian crossing. So this crossing is located at the intersection of California Avenue, right there at Marina Heights Drive. Now, prior to changes on this project, it was a three-legged intersection that had a stop control. It had dedicated left and right turns. Speeds on this road are over 40 miles an hour. The nearest crosswalk was 1,300 feet to the south and 2,300 feet to the north. So now, if any of you are familiar with this, you know that's where the Sea Haven and all of construction and the development is going in. So there's a lot of traffic and it's a busy corridor. The high school, Marina High School, is not too far from there. So kids that are leaving those developments are walking over to the high school. And they really didn't have any safe way and passageway to get through there. So what this project, again, gives you an idea, a sense of the location. So this project included the installation of a crosswalk and new ADA compliant curb ramps to the south, a beacon signal, and improvements and marking better the curb, the sidewalk, and pavement markings and striping. So you can kind of see here the improvements that were done that we just talked about. And so as a result, this project is an important link in the alternative modes of transportation between residential areas, Marina High School, and the regional bike routes. It creates a safe and accessible crossing across a busy, high-speed roadway in the city. And particularly during those commute hours when people are going to work and people are going to school, it's really busy. So this is an important improvement for that community. And so for those reasons, we want to recognize and congratulate the city of Marina, along with their partners, Wallace Group, CSG, and Monterey Peninsula Engineering, and recognize them and award them a Transportation Excellence Award. So Stina, are you representing the city today?
Sure.
Yes. Okay, so Bruce is online. Supervisor asked you, I don't know if you wanted to be a part of this or not. It's my understanding that you were very much in support of this project, so please come up.
Yes, our mayor's on the line. Bruce
Okay.
Delgado.
We'll give them to Facebook.
Thank you. All right, well, we're honored to receive this. This is a part of town that is being used as a cut across. So this is going to be, it already is game changing for the residents and students that use that heavily trafficked road. So I invite every one of you to come check it out while you go shopping out of the dune. So thank you very much. We're very excited to receive this and honored, and our team is just rocking it in terms of transportation projects. There was just an article in the paper this morning about the interchange Herald. So we're doing things in Marina. So thank you so much, each and every one of you, for your support.
Before this.
Oh, yeah.
Mayor Delgado, did you want to say anything?
Sorry, I'm stuck in Southern California with COVID and family issues, but on this project, it's been going on in the planning stages for about 4 or 5 years. And it's a wonderful benefit for students whose parents were really concerned They couldn't cross a 45-mile-an-hour street without any controls. So this is a great project, and thanks to TAMC for supporting it.
Thank you. Okay, the next project is the King City Downtown Streetscape Project. And this project really was about, it's comprehensive in terms of placemaking, beautification, and safety. And you can see here by these dots here, King City took a look at where the collision areas in their cities, and then what can they do not only to enhance safety, but then make something that's beautified, something that will attract people to the downtown area. It's the core historic downtown of the city. So they engaged community members, they talked to them to help identify what those hotspots were and to implement components of the downtown streetscape master plan developed through years of planning and public input. But the design concepts are also associated with the Blue Zones Project Monterey County, which incorporates built environment enhancements to improve public health with the creation of a more active pedestrian-oriented environment. So I'd like to show you some photos kind of before and after. So this gives you a sense of what the historic part of downtown looks like. This is before the project went to implementation. And then you can see work in progress here by this slide. The next few slides. See here. And then you can see how some of the transformation is happening in this slide here. It features, you can see ADA compliance, bulk cutouts, and also beginnings of what's going to be landscaping along the street there on the side. To give you a real clear sense of the differences. So this intersection right here, you can see this business. This is what it looked like before the transformation happened. Their work, and I go back. So this is the work. You can see that business there on the corner. So this is the work that's happening in front. You can see changes already going on. And then you can see the landscaping to the side here, the trees. There are additional seating areas like the bench that's over to the left behind this, kind of right here. Screen, you can see that. And part of this project also includes the plan to include public art. So again, they're transforming their downtown area to make it friendly, pedestrian friendly, to encourage people to explore the downtown. It helps with ultimately economic development. So this is really about transforming their downtown and making it so that it's a welcoming place and a safe place for everybody, no matter their mode of transportation, right? So again, you see the end result there of what that looks like. And it's for these reasons that we're recognizing the city of King, Kimberly Horn, and Monterey Peninsula Engineering for the King City Downtown Streetscape Project.
Did the work.
Please get up. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Yes. Thank you.
Do you want to say anything?
Sure.
Where they take?
Well, thank you all. As you mentioned, this started about 8 years ago. It's a lot of community outreach and a lot of community input. And with that, we found out what components the city wants and what the city wants in their downtown. And what we found was they wanted pedestrian oriented society. They wanted a safe place to walk. These bulb outs provide, a reduced distance to cross the street, so it's safe. And another thing they wanted is to promote the businesses. The businesses wanted a sense of community. So what we did was we provided outdoor dining for multiple restaurants and coffee shops in our downtown. And it's made a difference. We hear it from the community. We hear it from the owners of the restaurants. And so we want to thank you for this.
Thank you.
And we have one more project to recognize. It's the City of Monterey, and it's for the Marina Parking Lot project. So this is the parking lot project. It's near the wharf. There, this is the area. And this was about rehabilitating failing pavement. It was about improving pedestrian safety, lighting, traffic flow circulation, and providing environmental improvements. So the design took into consideration the needs of all of the users and provides one user experience across both of those parking lots. This kind of gives you a view of the recreation trail realignment comparison. This is the top one is what it looked like before. The bottom one is through this project they were able to relocate and widen the trail crossing. And by doing that, they reduced pedestrian and bicycle exposures to vehicles and eliminated a multi-lane at Figueroa exit of the parking lot, providing a safer and more comfortable experience. The project also included raised crossings and rectangular rapid flashing beacon warning systems, which improved pedestrian and bicycle visibility. And then although there are now more rec trail crossing, each of those crossings has less conflicting vehicle traffic than the single former trail crossing did. So two of these crossings are single lane, one-way crossings. So trail users now only need to look in one direction for oncoming traffic. Here's some examples of what a multi-lane threat looked like for somebody that was crossing in a crosswalk. This gives you an example of why there's better visibility now with the new design. And this is the ribbon cutting celebration for what on the surface seemed like it's just a parking lot, but it really was much more than just a parking lot for all of the benefits that the city and the pedestrians and the users in that area are going to experience. And so that is why we are going to recognize them. And let me just show you some of the pictures of what the new throughputs look like. Okay, so with all of those reasons that I mentioned, we're going to honor the City of Monterey, Bear Electric, COW North America, Kimberly Horn, and Precision Grade for the Marina Parking Lot Project. Please come up for presentation. Thank you.
So thank you so much for this award. It means a lot because safety is always important for all of us. And so this area is heavily trafficked by not only locals, but visitors, tourists. So it's very important for this project, and we know that we couldn't do without the collaboration of our partners. And we're so proud of our city staff for the work that they do. So we want to thank them for the hard work that they continue to do to make our city safer. Thank you.
Oh, yes.
Hi, I just want to say, as a walker and a driver and a parker in that area regularly, I am delighted with it. It's just been a beautiful job. It was a wonderful collaboration, and I'm very thankful that the city brought it forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to turn this over to Todd now. Todd's going to come up and we're going to do a little bit of recognition for those of our own. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Teresa.
Yeah.
Do we have slides for it?
You do, yeah. TAMC recognition.
All right, we have one employee to recognize. Lori Williamson has been with TAMC for 5 years. Lori, you want to come up here, please? Lori's a senior engineer with the agency, and I really just, this is to show our appreciation for her service to the agency. Lori's an engineer's engineer, meaning that if you need someone to be detailed oriented, Lori is your person. So thank you very much for your service. And next, we'd like to recognize Mike Labar as our outgoing board chair. As the King City Mayor, Mike's also had dual roles. He has a lot of different roles that he represents the region so well. I just want to say we really appreciate the fact that you were our chair and the time you spent at TAMC. Like Chris mentioned earlier, it was a busy year, so we appreciate your guidance throughout. Thank you. Thank you.
And I just want to say, it has been an absolute pleasure to work with such a great board. One of the things that I've always admired about all of you is the ability to balance the realities of life, the constraints of government grants, which we always hear about, but how thoughtful you are on ensuring that whatever we do meets the needs of the residents we serve. And that is honestly something special that I've seen here in Monterey County, and this board exemplifies that. So it's been an honor to represent you for this last year, so thank you.
Okay, and so with that, we're going to end the program, but I want to take a moment to do a pitch and to make a plug for next year's awards. It's going to be our 23rd, and so I'm going to challenge all of you to start thinking about projects that are in the progress this year that you can then submit for nominations when the fall comes in October 2024. So with that, I am through, and I thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Teresa.
I just want to take a moment to also thank Mayor Labar for his leadership. So you may know that when I was in Assembly, I met Mayor Labar during very difficult times in King City. And I've been able to see the transformation of that community, dealing with the most challenging of issues there. Mayor Labar has been a great leader to help King City serve its community much better. And now I work with him and collaborate with him on homelessness, housing, transportation, rail. Mayor, I just wanted to commend you because I see you as an example of somebody who collaborates and takes on the toughest issues. You roll up your sleeve with the rest of us. And as a result, you're making King City much better and also making our county much better. So thank you. I just want to commend you for your leadership.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other comments from the board on any of the awards or the last presentation?
Well, I want to say, of course, I appreciate everybody who got an award, but I do want to recognize the chair for his leadership and what he's been doing, particularly what the supervisor Leo said on all those issues. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mike, I'd like to thank you for your work in the advocacy in the rail world. Your dedication to Coast Rail tonight is incredible. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Right, I'm going to take a point of personal privilege here in the time frame that we're in, looking at recognitions, and I want to thank Board Member Christina Medina Dirksen. I know we weren't expecting you to be at the board today, so we didn't have a parent certificate, but the service you provided to TAMC has been absolutely incredible. I mean, just winning an award today, I think, is a testament for your city to your leadership there, specifically focusing on transportation projects and always coming down to the most common factor, which is the residents and constituents that we serve and their needs to feel safe. You always bring that to the table, no matter what area of the county we're talking about. So I want to thank you for your advocacy, for your work on this board, and the change that you've helped bring to your community as you transition off our board, as you head on to new challenges. But thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Yes.
Personal privilege
Please.
here. I was able to attend the meeting. I wasn't able to make comments at that meeting. I used my time for other things. But Christina, you are such a steadfast, dedicated champion for people and for families and for mothers and children. You dive in head first in ways that you just don't see all the time. And you'll be missed here at TAMC as well as all the regional bodies and boards. And I just want to say, like, I am so grateful for the leadership that you've provided the city that I live in, for my family and for our neighbors. Yeah. So I know you will continue in all of the ways that you do, but I'm glad to see you.
For those of you who don't know, I resigned from council last week to take on a new challenge will be announced next week. And just say that I will be diving head in for the good of our entire community. I'm super excited. I'm really sad I called Todd. I'm really sad to miss this board. I love Maria. I love Eloise. I love the staff. You all have made, in my mind, like, there's such an amazing example of how we work together and the regional components, and nobody's complaining or fighting, and like the politics are left behind. We all focus on one thing. And, you know, it's a testament to Todd, your leadership, and this amazing staff, Teresa. I mean, I'm excited about transportation, and it's with Carl, like, we're riding the bus now. Like, it's just been so fundamentally changing being part of this group and getting to know every single one of you. So just know the next step is going to be taking what we've learned here and what you all have mentored and showed me, and just bringing some amazing changes to our county that is going to benefit us all. So I just want to say thank you so much. I wasn't expecting that, and I appreciate every single one of you, and I look forward to keeping up relationships. You know, like Jose, you call me, and I'll come pick you up. You know, I'm not kidding you. I'm not. I'm going to still be involved, and I really have cherished every single relationship and every single person here. So thank you all.
Okay, at this point, I'm gonna open it up for public comment on that presentation, just on the right side of legal. Thank you. Seeing nobody in the room, no hands up via Zoom, we'll go ahead and close item 5 and proceed forward to item 6, which is to receive a presentation on the status of State Route 156 Capitol Boulevard interchange. We'll go to Mike Zeller for that presentation.
Great, thank you. Good morning. I'm Mike Zeller. I'm TAMC's Director of Programming and Project Delivery. We have an update today on the State Route 156 Castroville Boulevard interchange project. With us today, we have Chad Stoyer, the project manager for the project, to give an update, as well as Dave Silverberger is the Northern Office Chief. Once Caltrans has provided the update on the project, along with a discussion of some new cost estimates that we received, we'll discuss some of the potential next steps and options that staff sees to keep the project moving forward. So that I'll hand it over to Chad to run through some slides.
Thanks, Mike. Good morning, everyone. As Mike had said, my name is Chad Storer. I'm with District 5 Project Management. I'm the project manager for the Castroville Boulevard Interchange project at Caltrans. I'm currently here with David Silverberger today, my office chief. And what the purpose of the presentation today is to give you folks an update on the project and where we're at and its status. I know the last time that this project was brought before you was in the May 2023 time range. So we'll get right into it here. Let's talk first a little bit about the Highway 156 corridor project as a whole. One segment of which is the Castroville Boulevard interchange. And you can see on this slide here that it's comprised of 3 segments. Segment 1, which is the Castroville Boulevard interchange, and then segment 2, which is the section of State Route 156 in between segment 1 and segment 3, which is the US 101-156 interchange. You can see for segment 1, Castroville Boulevard interchange, we'll get a little bit more into with regards to project cost, total project cost at this point, which is the $114 million mark. Rough estimates for segment 2 are coming in at 131 million, and then segment 3, 325 million. A little bit of overview on the project, which I'm sure most of you are aware of. The Castroville Boulevard interchange is a much needed project that basically addresses a lot of core issues that we're experiencing in the corridor with regards to safety and congestion, and then the exchange of goods and services along that corridor, particular State Route 156. It includes basically replacing a signalized intersection at that location with 3 roundabouts, on-off ramps in both the eastbound and westbound direction. Provides for a safer connection between Castroville Boulevard and 156, and then also implements some multi-use elements with regards to bicycle pedestrians as well. Some project challenges. A project of this size and stature, it's not uncommon for it to come with some typical challenges. This one, in this case, has some others as well. And we've highlighted those here. There's legislation needed for take of fully protected Santa Cruz long-toed salamander. New route adoption and freeway agreement needed between Caltrans and the county. Working with Coastal Commission on a coastal development permit, and then finding properties for agricultural, wetland, and species mitigation. And we'll get a little bit more into that as we proceed further along. There continues to be challenges with utility relocation and rising costs. Rising construction costs and support need. It's an ongoing challenge that we're working through as we move forward. And then also environmental permits associated with agricultural, wetland, and species mitigation. And those are actually in process. We'll get a little bit more into those as we head further along the presentation as well. The green tick marks on the right-hand side indicate these project challenges that we've actually already surpassed. And we've made significant progress on these remaining 3 challenges as well. To talk about current status on the project, we've made significant progress since May 2023 of last year. Project plans and estimate are complete. The coastal development permit has been issued. And some of these items were actually completed and in place prior to May 2023, some of them since May 2023. Army Corps wetland impacts permit issued, agricultural mitigation property, the Dubach property, which you see a graphic of here, has been purchased. CDFW permits are anticipated in February 2024. We made significant progress on those items and the environmental permits. The initial take permit, the CDFW for Santa Cruz long-toed salamander, as well as the 1600 LSA Lake and Stream Bed Alteration Agreement is in progress, and we anticipate those coming through mid-February. 60% plans have been received from utilities for utility relocation. This is a big one. Utility relocation and dealing with the utility companies that are being impacted by the project and their current location of utilities. We made a lot of progress on that. We received 60% plans from all the utilities with the exception of one, and we're getting close on another. We'll touch on that here in a bit. We're nearing completion of the maintenance agreement with the County of Monterey. There's been a lot of discussions with regards to getting to this point on that portion of the project. And then there's multiple parcels currently in escrow. I wanted to hit a little bit more on utility relocation, since that's a portion of the project that has really kind of taken the forefront with regards to schedule and cost. Basically, this project entails 7 different utility companies having facilities that need to be relocated. 3 of those utilities are PG&E branches: electrical transmission, electrical distribution, and then gas transmission. Gas transmission basically having the most impact on them and the facilities that need to be relocated for that. Talk a little bit more about that as we get further along the presentation. PG&E, or excuse me, 60% plans, like I had stated, have been received from all utilities with the exception of Charter Communications. We feel we're getting close on them. There's been a lot of effort with really all the utilities in trying to, for lack of a better word, pin them down and get commitments from them and have them work with us in completion of the project. PG&E is currently organizing for exploratory and recon effort for their relocation work. So we got to the point of 60% relocation plans, and what PG&E is gearing up for right now is to go out, kind of take a look at these areas where they're going to be doing their proposed work, verify what plans we have in place for them to be able to relocate their utilities, all in an effort to get that work going as we can. Let's talk about project costs. So if you recall from that first slide in a summary of 3 segments in the 156 corridor, This kind of hones in a little bit more on that number that you saw on that first slide. So pre-May 2023 estimated total cost, just under $59 million. May 2023, which would be May of last year, total cost came in at just under $78 million. January 2024, where we're sitting at right now, current cost is a little under $115 million. We'll get into reasoning for those increase, why we're at where we're at. A large part of that, or the lion's share of that portion of cost increase is due to utility relocation. We'll kind of detail out that in the following few slides. And as you can see, a cost increase between May 2023 and January 2024 on the order of $40 million. Let's talk first about support cost increase. So when we're talking about support cost increase, we're looking at phase one development, plan specifications and estimate. Obviously that phase takes you all the way through basically award and right up to the beginning of construction. And the reasons for major increase in support costs to this point is the increased level of effort in phase one and two to facilitate with the utility relocations. There's been a lot of, I can stand up here and speak in great detail and surpass the time for this meeting with regards to the level of effort and work that all of our functional units at Caltrans and the utilities have collaborated to be able to get to the point where we can get 60% plans. In May 2023, we didn't have any of those plans in place. We were at the very rough stages. Now we're at a point where we've got 60% plans for PG&Es, all three major branches of their utilities. Another reason for the increased level of effort is due to phase three support costs, which is support costs during the course of construction. A lot of that has to do with structures, involvement, geotechnical involvement. There's a portion of this project because we're going to be placing up to 30-foot fills on either side of the freeway. There is some geotechnical work that needs to take place as part of construction in advance to be able to take up settlement prior to the placement of that amount of fill. And then the third bullet item here, biological monitoring during construction. We've discovered over the course of the past 7 or 8 months during perfection of some of these CDFW permits and really all of the environmental permits to this point, that there's going to be an increased level of effort that needs to take place during construction to fulfill the requirements that are now part of these permits that have become perfected over time to the point where we're at right now. Construction capital increase. Reasons for increasing construction capital. We have discovered that there's a post-construction biological monitoring requirement increasing from 5 to 10 years. So again, through the course of perfection of these CDFW permits and with the regional authorities with regards to those permits, the requirement for post-construction monitoring has gone from 5 to 10 years. And it's not just a factor of monitoring, it's survey requirements that they put that are included in the permits as a result of the species that are being impacted, which involves the level of administrative and survey work that needs to take place in the limits of the project post-construction, as well as our offsite mitigation areas. Also an increase in unit cost for contract items for landscape planning. And we had an escalation factor due to the estimated RTL as a result of the push and schedule with regards to utility relocation to the end of fiscal year 23-24, rather than the beginning of 23-24. And then that pushes advertisement and bids that process further into fiscal year 24-25. And you'll notice on the previous slide, construction support increases on the order of $6 million. Construction capital increase on the order of $4 million. And you can see here, right-of-way capital increase is on the order of $27 million, just under. So again, to reiterate, the major portion of the cost increase that we are seeing right now is due to this utility relocation factor that we've been challenged with and pushing forward with at this point. So the increasing utility relocation cost, 24 million of it is 24 million of the $26.9 million increase in this portion of cost, and 22 million of that 24 million is for relocation of the 3 branches of the PG&E utilities. And you can see the breakdown on that $22 million is shown here. So for electrical transmission, it's $3 million, electrical distribution, $6 million, and then gas transmission, $13 million. To highlight a little bit more about the impacts for all three of those PG&E branches and what's entailed for relocation on that. Electrical transmission basically requires the modification / movement and an actual replacement of one of the electrical towers. And the reason for that is that we're putting 30 feet of fill to be able to establish both roundabouts on either side of the highway. That affects your vertical and horizontal spacing to the existing power lines. So that's why some modification needs to take place with regards to that. Electrical distribution, there's some overhead and as well as some existing overhead, as well as some current underground that needs to be relocated as a result of the project in the limits of those utilities with our improvements. And then gas transmission requires the relocation of a 12-inch gas transmission main being held by PG&E. And then the remaining approximate $2.5 million of the increase in right-of-way capital, again, goes back to increased requirements with regards to environmental mitigation and compliance. These 3 bullet points hit on that. Amphibian mitigation, restoration, parcel acquisition, endowment, wetland mitigation. There is a wetland that traverses a part of the project site. It basically begins the west portion of the site and extends a little bit into the central portion of the improvements. And then farmland mitigation and endowment. So the question, why so much? Why did we get from a number in the $78 million range in May 2023, and why are we at $14 million as we speak here today in January? Just kind of a qualitative description of why we're at where we're at, cost-wise, and then also really schedule-wise too, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But the project impacted nearly every major utility. Movement and replacement of electrical towers that I had just mentioned. Relocation of a 12-inch main gas transmission line. And I'm going to highlight 12-inch main gas transmission line, not a 6 or an 8 or a 10, a 12-inch main transmission gas line is essentially what we're dealing with here. And then relocation of multiple utilities into a distinct alignment area, given the limits of construction. So when you have a project of this size and stature, there's a limited area. If you have multiple utilities that need to be relocated, then there needs to be some communication, potentially sharing a joint trench or sharing the same area within the project limits that multiple utilities can move into. So we've had to deal with that as well. There are challenges. We've worked with them and we'll work with this board on all those fronts. Not necessarily to paint a poor picture of how many utilities have had to be dealt with on this project, just trying to give you folks a description of those challenges in regards to that portion of the project. Design, I had mentioned 30-foot soil fills on either side of SR 156 and extensive geotechnical. We are having to install a system of vertical drains, basically to be able to remove the poor water pressure because there's saturated poor soils in that area, depending on the season. And if we don't do that work in advance of starting to place these fills for the interchange, then you experience the bulk of that settlement post-construction, which you don't want to have to deal with or you want to minimize. So there's been some design challenges on that standpoint. And then I say it's extensive structures because the nature of the soil conditions and the geotechnical issues that we're having to deal with impact that as well. Environmental. I had mentioned traverses portion of a wetland. There's impacts to Santa Cruz long-toed salamanders, as well as other amphibious species, impacts to farmland, and it's within the coastal zone. And with regards to right-of-way, the environmental, the design, and then the utility challenges that we have with the project are something that also impact the right-of-way for it. So that has to deal with easements and parcel acquisition associated with utility relocation, private property parcel acquisition for construction of the interchange itself, and then parcel acquisition for amphibian, wetland, and farmland. Again, going back to utilities, since that's had the most impact on the project and continues to be the critical path with regards to schedule and cost. I wanted to go over utility relocation timeline and process and kind of how we got where we're at based on when communication was had. with the utilities, and most importantly, PG&E, given that they seem to be the most impacted. 2021, we initiated contact with all utilities impacted. All the utilities responded, with the exception of PG&E electrical distribution and gas transmission. In early 2022, we applied for our first time extension for funding, which was granted. And then in late 2022, PG&E gas transmission gives Caltrans a 1.5-year timeframe to complete relocation plans. In March 2023, PG&E Electrical Distribution, they assigned a project manager for development and relocation plans, communication with us. And then in mid-2023, due mainly to the issue with utility relocation and some responsiveness and complications of the process, and we applied for a second time extension for funding, which will get us to the end of this fiscal year, and that time extension was also granted. And then mid-2023 to present, if we're looking back at March, April, May of 2023, we weren't at the point where we had 60% plans in hand for the project from all the utilities. We're now at the point where we have 60% plans received. And since then, just within the past 2-3 months, now it was, okay, here's the relocation plans and here's the cost associated with the level of relocation that needs to be done. And a lot of that cost is what you're seeing in that $26.9 million increase in right-of-way capital costs. And then we're continuing to work through challenges with PG&E. And really all the utilities, but primarily PG&E, and where we're at right now is we've got 60% plans, and now it's a PG&E. Now we need the perfection of the estimates that you're going to require so that we can get to design, so that we can perfect our PS&E, which is currently going through the Office of Engineering Caltrans. So that's the rough utility relocation timeline and process. I think I'm now going to hand it over to Mike, who's going to take over the presentation here, and then I'm sure there'll be an opportunity at the end for questions.
Great, thank you, Chad. So yes, I'd like to talk a little bit about, now that talked about where we are today, what it looks like moving forward. So as Chad mentioned, the project was successful in receiving 2 time extensions, which is fairly extraordinary. Usually projects are only allowed to have a single 12-month time extension because of the importance of this project. We were able to coordinate with our partners at the California Transportation Commission and secure a second 12-month time extension that gets us to June 30th, 2024. There's 3 different state funding sources that deadline applies to on the project. It's if you look at the staff report that's included in the agenda, there's a breakdown of the funding, but essentially we have a $28 million of Senate Bill 1 Trade Corridor Enhancement Program grant. It's subject to that deadline. We have about $2 million of State Transportation Improvement Program funds, as well as another about $2.1 million of COVID relief funds on the project. If the project goes beyond that June 30th, 2024 deadline without being able to have the project ready to list and get its construction allocations, the $28 million of trade corridor funds would be forfeited, as well as the COVID relief funds. Those funds would go away. The $2 million of State Transportation Improvement Program funds would lapse. That money would come back to us in a subsequent State Transportation Improvement Program cycle, likely the 2026 cycle. So about $30 million at risk from moving past that deadline. For us to meet that deadline, this is essentially the schedule in front of you that would need to occur for the projects. Right-of-way certification and ready to list in April. That would give us time to submit the paperwork that would be needed to get to a vote from the California Transportation Commission in June. August, the project could be advertised with an award in October. Typically, at June, when you get your construction allocation, you have about 6 months then to award the construction contract. So we get that awarded in October with an approval in November. And then construction could start 3rd quarter of fiscal year 24-25. As you heard today, there are significant risks in this schedule. in discussions with Caltrans, it's very likely that the project will extend beyond that June 30th, 2024 deadline. This is the optimistic schedule that would get us there. There's still a likely potential that the project going forward as it is would not be able to meet that deadline. So with that, would like to talk through what are some potential next steps and alternatives to keep this project moving forward. The first alternative is to approve funding identify the fund sources that we could put towards that $40 million cost increase, fund those increases and keep the project moving. In terms of time delay, if we're able to keep to the schedule that was on the prior slide, there would be no time delay. But as we mentioned, there's likely at least another 6 months that would be needed. If that were to occur, as I mentioned, the project wouldn't meet its funding deadlines and funding would be forfeited and the project would stop. The second alternative is to reapply for the Senate Bill 1 funding in cycle 4. So that would be the Trade Corridor Enhancement Program funds. This would likely be a 6 month up to a year delay. The next cycle, the cycle 4 for Senate Bill 1 is coming up soon, and the project, if it were successful, could be awarded in June of 2025. So that'd be about a year delay from where it currently is. We would forfeit the current grant. And as I mentioned, we would also lose the $2 million of COVID funds. But this would allow the project to complete the right-of-way and design with using local funds, and I can detail that on the next slide. But there is also the risk of the potential that the grant is not awarded, the project is not awarded a future grant. We did discuss this alternative with the California Transportation Commission, who oversees both the Congested Corridors Program as well as the Trade Corridors Enhancement Program. Their comments back to us, their feedback back was that this project, when it was submitted in cycle 2, was a very competitive project. The state doesn't typically see these types of projects where you have both congestion relief and freight improvements in a rural area. And their feedback was that this could potentially be a competitive project in a future cycle. Obviously, there's no guarantees that the grant would be awarded, but there was the encouragement that they saw this as a potentially competitive project in a future grant cycle. Some other alternatives that we looked at is that we take a step back and do value engineering on the current project. So that would be taking a deep dive on these project costs that we talked about, seeing where things could be rescoped or minimized to help us reduce the cost. Again, we'd be looking at about a 2 to 4 year delay. This would, again, stop the project and forfeit the current grants. And it's likely that the value engineering would result in cost improvements, but they're likely to be modest. We're not going to see a huge reduction of that $40 million cost increase. And then finally, we looked at potentially just reevaluating the project. So stopping the project, taking a step back and saying, is this really the project that we need in this area? That would look at about a 5 to 7 year time delay. If we are completely rescoping the project and coming back with something new, there would likely need to be additional environmental evaluations. We'd be restarting the design process. Again, we'd be forfeiting grants. And it's possible that there are no other alternatives currently that meet the state climate and freight and equity goals, such as this project does already. So we may come to the conclusion that we have the best project currently scoped, and there may not be something that meets state goals that would be competitive for projects moving forward. So having run through those different alternatives, I'd like to focus on the second one, reapplying for cycle 4, as this currently seems to be what staff is recommending the board to consider for moving forward. This would be a potential funding plan to keep the project moving if we were to forfeit the current grant and reapply. We currently have $25.7 million in the State Transportation Improvement Program for design and right-of-way. Those funds are currently secured and being spent on the project. Those funds would not be lost. We also have a federal earmark of about $312,000 in design and right-of-way. I expect that those funds have already been spent. Currently, we have $10.3 million of Measure X that's committed to the construction phase. We would propose moving that over to design and right of way to help cover the cost increases that we talked about there, as well as an additional about $14.3 million of Measure X would be needed to be added to fully fund the design and right of way phase. And then we have $5 million of regional fees that are already that are also on the construction phase that would need to be moved over to design and right. I'll note that the total of 25 or 24.7 million of Measure X, that is within the commitment that Measure X has towards this project already. The total that the project has from Measure X is roughly $36 million. So this would be within the amount of funding Measure X has for the project, and there would not need to be any alterations to that. It would be an additional, adding additional funding towards the project that's not currently program. What that would allow us to do then is to get through the design and right-of-way phase, and then to seek a construction, a grant for construction of roughly about $59 million. This would require the state to agree to sponsor the project. That would minimize, either reduce or eliminate the need for a local match on the project if the state were to nominate the project. And that would allow us then to get the project teed up for the Cycle 4 grant. With the grant award timeline would then fit well with where the current project schedule is, allowing us to get to construction in about a year from what was originally anticipated. There are some additional discussions that need to take place. The Caltrans is currently going through the process of evaluating projects that they're going to sponsor. We're working through that process right now on the Highway 68 project. We had not anticipated needing to do this for 156, so we're a little behind the ball in having those discussions. So we need to have those talks with Caltrans and get those questions answered if they would be willing to sponsor the project, and if this is a way that we could move forward if TAMC is willing to commit to getting us through design and right away so that we can get to this point. And I believe that's the last slide. This report was agendized as an information item. So TAMC staff wanted to bring forward the alternatives and the recommendation for the board to discuss and consider. And then we do have at staff level some additional questions, obviously, that we need to go back to Caltrans, the California Transportation Commission, and make sure that we get clarification on before bringing a formal action back to the board. But wanted to get feedback from the board and hopefully a consensus on a way to move forward for us to have those discussions. So at this point, I'll pause, take any questions, see if Executive Director Mock would like to add anything.
Sure, thank you. So this has been a really short time frame for us to get the bad news about this shocking cost increase, and we have had a month and a half or so for staff to think about this, and then we shared it with Supervisor Church, and we talked about it at the executive committee. So some of you are hearing it for the first time today, and you're at that point of shock. And then my next step was anger, and his other steps through the process of trying to wrap my head around a cost increase. And working with Caltrans staff since the initial cost, which was 122 million, we've identified some areas that the cost is down, and looking at it being TAMC's share of it being about $33 million of that cost increase still is excessive. So I was really expecting to come here and recommend that we abandon the project. I thought we were at a point where this just wasn't viable for the cost. But we had a really good meeting yesterday with the California Transportation Commission staff. They were supportive of reapplying for the grant funds, which actually we didn't think they'd be supportive, but they actually really encouraged us to do it. And that allows us to shift the whole construction cost to the state, which does a couple really positive things.
One, they'd have to cover the whole construction cost, and it would reduce the amount that we'd have to cover based on that, the first scenario of us just contributing more money right now today. Two, it would, when they cover the whole phase, if there's cost increases during construction, they cover that extra cost versus us having to come up with money later on with cost increases. So that's really advantageous. And three, as we talked about it yesterday, the time frame wasn't as far off. It wasn't as much delay as we originally thought. So we're really reapplying for the grant money would be a relatively small time extension to the project, and would allow it to move forward essentially the same time frame as it would if we contributed additional money now. So all of those were positive. The big negative was that it's all a risk. We don't know that we'll be successful in the grant award. We don't know, quite a few things, but I felt like we're in a lot of pressure to make decisions without enough information because of the short time frame that we got this news. And I think that what we're recommending to move forward with pursuing the next grant cycle gives us some more time and allows us to dive into some of the questions that we still have. We need answers to. One primarily for me is the PG&E cost that were astounding how much they were estimating the cost for the gas line transmission particularly. And I think we would have a little time to dive into that and make sure we're comfortable and can accept the number. The cost estimate that we have now, I think, is essentially the top end. A little delay might cost some additional escalation in the construction and things, but that's relatively minor in the scheme. But at this point, I think we're kind of at a known cost versus this massive increases we've been getting over the last few months that you had since May. So I'm feeling better being in a position where we can have some time before we have to make the next big decision, which is applying for the trade corridor grant and when we need to contribute the additional Measure X funds for right-of-way, which is not right now. Caltrans can continue working on delivering the project, and we'll bring back to the board the decision on that additional 14 million or whatever it might end up being. We might even be able to shift some of that into the SB1 Cycle 4 grant, but even at 58 million, that's a really solid number for us to be given a grant that high. So I think what you see now is a pretty reasonable picture of what we would have moving forward. But I just wanted to share kind of that perspective of where we went through with this evaluation. And it's not a good alternative to be where, it's not a good place we're at right now. But I feel much better in making the recommendation that you receive this report, and we'll come back with further progress and maybe a request for additional funding. But really, my alternative recommendation was just to stop work and abandon the project. And that's just, I think we have an alternative to that right now. So I feel at least good about making that suggestion that we move forward this way. So thank you.
Thank you, Todd. So looking at this again, this is just a presentation, so we could give direction, but overall, we're not going to have an item that generally vote on today. But with that, I'm going to go to membership.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear these comments, Todd, that you've going, better about it. I'm still sort of at the anger stage myself, haven't got out of that. I do have quite a few questions here. Most of them are going to be for Caltrans and trying to understand how we got here. But I wonder, when you talk about grants, and I know I'm asking you an impossible question. Did you give some rough idea of what you hope this would be, the money we would be getting, and what it would eventually cost us? And you didn't give any real numbers out. I'm just trying to, I'm just trying to understand what you're hoping could happen here.
Yeah. So the costs that you see on the screen right now represent the project cost that's been escalated up to the date that they expect to construct it. So this is a fully escalated cost that covers the construction, the support, everything that
Caltrans is estimating to deliver the project at this point. So what we would be talking about is putting in a grant for approximately $59 million for construction of the project and increasing the TAMC commitment, the Measure X commitment from the current amount, which is 10.3 million, an additional 14 million to a total of 25 million. So we also have $5 million of our regional fees. So that's our total commitment. But right now, the new funds, in addition to what the board's already committed to, would be 14.3 million. And that would be shifting it just kind of the way the package goes towards the state, shifting our contribution to right-of-way design versus construction. And that does require the state to agree to that. That's something that we'll get more input soon, and well before the summer. And eventually, it's the putting the package together for an application. Caltrans would be the lead agency, and we would be supporting them on that application. So really, it's at that point our commitment to funding. Caltrans is the lead on the application, and we got really, positive support from the two staff people who are the key reviewers and rankers of the projects. And that's a very good recommendation, but it's not a guarantee. That's where we're at.
Thank you for more elaboration and understanding that. It at least gives some hope that we have a project that might survive here. Right, I have quite a few questions for you. I don't know where you want to take on anything to turn around or.
Yeah.
Closer to the microphone so folks can hear it would be ideal.
Yeah. So I should let you know, this is actually my district, this area.
Okay.
Here, so if the project doesn't go, there's been plans to try to do something with 156, as I'm sure you're aware, since the 1960s. And this is the closest any project's ever been. So if it doesn't go through, it isn't you who's getting blamed. If anybody's going to end up getting blamed, it'll be more likely with me. And if rightly or wrongly, just the way it is. So I was trying to understand how we got here, and I understand where you're using from May the 40 million added on to there, but the actual fact is the project's doubled in price in the last year. Because when I first came on here, we had 55 million and there was 18 million being added on because it was determined that the soil wasn't adequate. Down at the county, we tend to test the soil early on a project that's going on. And so I raised that question then. I still don't understand it, why that couldn't have been, why wouldn't have been identified early on? It seemed like a real basic thing if you're going to do anything in engineering. But I understand, that's where it is. And these costs, I don't have a disagreement with them, but that's no true cost. It's just the process and how it gets here, which makes no sense to me. So that's one part right there. And now we've added on quite a few more dollars out of here. So I see it's gone from 0 to 4.4 million of biomonitoring, and I understand it's because you've this is what the charts show here, that you basically maybe the biomonitoring was worked into some other avenue, and now it has its another line item, and now it has its own. I understand you're having to do some extensive about 5 or 10 years. You're having to do more on the site construction. It's a environmentally sensitive area. We all know that. That's why it's been to the Coast Commission. That's what Salamander wrote. But I wonder if you could explain for me why it was discovered so late that because it's environmentally sensitive, it was going to take extra monitoring, why that wouldn't have been necessarily determined earlier.
Sure. So it sounds like you've kind of got multiple questions in yes there a little bit. Yeah. You're right about the soil conditions, that it's my understanding these soil conditions were known leading up to May 2023. I'm just using rough timelines here. So understood about that. It's my understanding from discussions with environmental and interactions that I've had with them in perfecting these CDFW permits, the 5-year, and we've kind of fallen victim to this on a handful of projects, not just this project, with increased requirements and regulations that take us from that 5 to that 10-year requirement. The implications of the 5 to 10 year are pretty significant, not just from a staffing perspective, but from the documentation that needs to be provided with regards to channel surveys and surveys of the entire site post-construction. So you can envision that those support costs and administrative costs associated with that, it can climb pretty quick when it comes to cost support increases during construction. My understanding is that the requirements from a 5 to 10 year biomonitoring requirement have been discovered in the past 7 or 8 months leading up to perfection of the CDFW permit. So that aspect of it is what I would categorize as new information since that May timeline. To talk a little bit about, you had mentioned biomonitoring, but a part of that, I think you had mentioned $4.4 million lump amount is comprised of not just biological monitoring, but landscape planting, which takes place after the project. The reason that is a separate cost and a separate contract is because there's a 3-year plant establishment period required for that planning that takes place, and that's in conjunction with the requirements in the permits. And it looks like David has. Yes, please.
I just want to introduce myself and then I'll proceed from there. My name is Dave Silverberger. I'm the office chief north for project management at Caltrans. First, I want to say, and I'm here on behalf of Scott Eads, the district director. First, I want to say, just so everybody understands, that Chad has only had this project for less than 6 months. So he is trying to do the best he can to kind of have the history. I've been around a long time. So I've been actually working with TAMC for since 2000 on a variety of projects. So I think I might be able to answer one question. The biomonitoring, when we were first asked about the estimate, we came up with our best estimate, and that came across as 4.4 million. And then we said that can't be right. So we went back and it's actually 400,000. So it's not, so biomonitoring is not 4.4 million, it's 400,000. So that changed.
So what's the other 4 million?
So then we have a landscape split project that comes out of construction capital that's different than biomonitoring.
Okay, but there's already 7.4 for landscape, 7.4 million.
Correct. It's separate than the biomonitoring. There's 2 separate items.
Okay, so there's about 11 million going into basically landscaping and planting.
So my point is that actually that 4.4 million that's not true. It's 400,000. We went back and checked it. And then the 7.8 has dropped.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so what happened is for the board report, they had to print it. But in the meantime, we were going back and sharpening our pencils and saying some of this stuff can't be right. So that's part of, at first we started at 122 million. And then we said, there's things that need to be re-looked at, and it dropped at 8 million to the 114.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
That's 4 million that you're taking off for that.
For the biomonitoring,
Okay.
4 million came off, and then also the landscape split dropped.
Okay, so it's not 7.4 million on landscape.
Correct.
Right.
Correct, okay. That's, okay, thank you for that, and thank you for going back and sharpening your pencils on that, because those are 2 things that, $11 million right there. I was having some trouble trying to understand.
It didn't make sense to us either.
Okay, very good.
Right, there was a lot of work and communication and looking at resources that took place just within the past 3 to 4 weeks between.
Sure.
Making it.
Thank you for being able to take care of that. Yeah, that takes care of obviously a
Yeah.
chunk of this and an explanation on what has happened there. As we look at PG&E, I see they're wanting 24 million or 22 million for utility relocation, which is a huge amount of money. They put this project in jeopardy initially because they were so slow at doing this. They didn't put a manager on until March 2023, I see. And then they give us a big bill of 22 million. Is there anybody that audits this? Is there anybody that looks at this to see if this is reasonable?
The CPUC just lets them do whatever they want.
Yeah. That's what it seems to be. I mean, that's a lot of money to be going in. And to me, they start late, they get delayed, and then they throw a big bill in. Sounds like it's a way to make a good hefty profit out of it.
Yeah, and what I can tell you that we've done, Caltrans internally, because when we first got those numbers, we felt the same way. You know, we get the numbers, we look at them, and we think, oh my gosh, we need to have.
My first response, this is ridiculous. When someone told me when it first came through, I said, that cannot be right. That can't be right. And then going through the same stages that Todd went through, and then it's like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what they're asking for. And it's like, now we have to tell Todd, because so we went back and said, this can't be right. And we completely agree with you. Wait, dump it on us. So very frustrating.
Yeah.
So process wise, I just want to make sure we don't have a ton of time left. I think we could all sit here for a few hours and bash PG&E.
I understand. I have the question of wanting to know exactly where we're at on these costs and how we got there, because I need to be able to explain them too. So this is what I'm going through. They've answered a big chunk of these, and I think I'm pretty much, we've covered that, but I want to get every question I have done. And I don't know if I really have much more on that. I think you've addressed those pretty thoroughly, because I kind of need to report this back. I mean, through the people in Castroville, the people in Oak Hills, the people in Orcat, the people that have got to go to the peninsula, back and forth. So I think you've addressed the big ones here onto this, and I appreciate it. And sorry you get thrown into what is really a hot kettle in 6 months.
No, it's fine. I'm here to answer questions if there are.
Thank you very much.
Remember later.
Well, obviously, we could always contact staff directly to answer questions outside of this as well. But question for Todd, though, just on the conversations with Caltrans on grant opportunities. The 59 million seems to be a very large number. Understanding the state is potentially facing almost a $60 billion deficit. Are the grant monies available? Are they with Caltrans or the California Transportation Commission? And what would be 59 million would be a very sizable grant to get all at once. What's a realistic range of grant allocations if we were to apply in the next cycle?
This is outside of the state budget process. So the funding will be available.
Okay, good.
I didn't look at other grants just to have that answer, like how reasonable is $59 million, but it strikes me as not completely unreasonable. It's in the higher range for a small county like ours, but it's other grants. They've given other grants of this size.
Great. Well, that's encouraging that they're telling you to apply. Yeah, certainly, I think when we look back at all the effort and the research that have been put into this project so far, I think it would be a waste of taxpayer dollars to not to back off on the project, considering how much we've already invested in this effort, right? So let's pursue as directions. We got to pursue those grant opportunities and see how we can make this. There's a way to get it across the finish line despite the new difficulties and funding challenges. Thank you.
We'll go Mary, then Ian.
Thank you. I just so support what Supervisor Church has just said. I mean, this is so serious. It impacts every single solitary one of us in this room. How many times have you come back from someplace and you see people who have been in the peninsula for a great long weekend and they're stuck on the traffic, and that's what they remember when they leave. So this impacts all the people who work on the peninsula, all of the people who travel the road every day. It impacts every one of us. The TOT money that's raised on the peninsula gets diminished when people are so unhappy with what they have to see when they get on the freeway to try to get out of our area. I'm putting all of that aside. And I'm trying to channel Mayor LaBarre. I'm just going to keep it balanced. I'm not going to be upset. I'm trying to get past Supervisor Church and the anger part. I'm still kind of there. But first of all, I want to thank you very much for your presentation. I'm sure you felt like you needed to wear Kevlar today. And my hope is that, you didn't feel like you needed it. And thank you so much as well, Dave, for the work that you've been putting into this. I have a couple of questions, and I think most of us might be trying to do this. So just kind of gauge, what are we going to lose? What's really on the table here? by going for the option that we're going for. And I clearly agree with you on the recommendation that you're making, and I'm glad you got past the, let's just dump the whole project, because that cannot happen. But what I want to know about is the 14 million of Measure X money that we're going to be taking for this project. What won't be done with that Measure X money? What will be lost by moving it over from wherever it may be going to this project?
Most likely, another project won't be lost. We've been lucky enough that the Measure X revenues have been significantly more than originally anticipated. So our cash flow has been good. We've been other projects are in progress and development where they haven't needed significant outlays yet, but they are coming. I mean, there will be there's the Indian Road project that's going into construction right now, for example. But I think we can cover this within our general cash flow over the next several years, because when we commit to it in the, say, this summer, doesn't mean we're spending it this summer. It's out still a little bit. We had it came up last year about when can we maybe reprogram new projects, or when we can use some of this additional revenue. And this is why we were pushing back and saying we should hold off until we deliver some of these projects. Is for instances like this. So I think we're in okay shape. It's just that it does, we certainly have to manage it and keep an eye on when we're expending the funds.
Okay, thank you. And then secondly, have we talked to our state delegation about this, the Senator Laird, Assemblywoman Addis, et cetera, to ensure that they will be supportive of this and on our behalf lobby for the state to ensure that, you know, there's a good favorable look for this huge grant that we're asking?
Those are next steps.
Those are next steps. Okay, and then what will this do with the overall time?
This following if we reapply for the grant and receive it, it would be a relatively minor delay because of the delays that we're talking about as risks right now. Those are likely to happen, and then this next cycle of funding would be available as early as summer of 2025. So that's a minor delay. But what we'll be doing is really looking at the steps between now and then on how to make sure this project is teed up and ready to go, and which would make it the most competitive it could possibly be for this next cycle. And there's some risk there. We'll be spending some money to make sure that happens.
And the next deadline that we would be conscious of then in this overall project, as far as what happens next, when are we going to know if we're on track?
I don't know exactly when that will be. We'll definitely be bringing that back to the board for the application for the SB1 grants this summer. I don't know if there's any additional decisions that need to be made before that.
Thank you.
I would just say, I think the most important deadline that we have to consider is the CTC visit that's due this summer, and making sure that we're prepared to make a presentation on our need ahead of that, so that we can tee up that body for future acts.
We are hosting the California Transportation Commission for their full meeting in June. So we'll have plenty of opportunity to meet with commissioners and talk about this project and our other projects.
Maybe a little, you know, hand signs at the end of the project when they're trying to get out to go home. And it's like,
We're gonna hold up church.
That was good. I was at another meeting and I think I got taken advantage of, so I'm a little upset anyway. But I agree with Supervisor Church and all of you guys about the importance of this project. What I want to get us to is what are we doing? Because I don't think PG&E is just gouging us, right? So I want to expand the conversation. I want our leadership to talk about are they doing it throughout the state? And I think the answer is yes. Right, so I want you guys to talk about that at the state level. You know, just to shot across the bow is, you know, we pay what we have to pay, but we think something ain't maybe not be right, right? And then you answered the last one, which is the advocacy, and that's all we can do is how do we get our legislators to look at this and if there's money, we know it's tight, but it's outside the budget process. So it's just the advocacy beyond us trying to fight and tell, right, PG&E to sharpen their pencils. Well, yeah, they're gonna tell you what they're gonna tell you. And I know well, before I forget, I want to make sure we appreciate the two presenters. Now, we know you guys are carrying the bad news, but you're not responsible for the bad news. So I appreciate that. And I just think we just need to go forward with the advocacy for this project the best we can. We need to regroup. But I like Mary's last statement about what are we missing? What other projects make it behind? So we all take this vote understanding some of those areas will be in our areas of concern. I think that's the only fair way to do it, but I definitely support us moving forward with this project the best way possible.
I'm gonna go Wendy and then go ahead of.
Just a quick question, the Chispa project, is that impacted by this in what way?
Well, I've been chatting with the Chispa folks and they feel like they could move forward with this project, their project without this project.
Okay.
They can build a supplementary road through the middle of it.
If necessary.
If necessary. But they will have to do additional modifications without this project beyond that.
Got it, thank you. And then I'm fully supportive. I think you've come up with a really good option, Todd. Thank you for perseverating over it in a way that gets us to a next step. I support the comments of my colleagues that we need to keep going. And I do think that as an immediate sort of next step, we need to convene some conversation with just the larger stakeholders to make sure that everyone is aware of and has an opportunity to ask questions that they may have. I mean, this is a huge issue for District 5, it's in District 2, passes right through District 4 with all of our peninsula cities. I know there are a lot of, I get regular questions about this. So I think finding the right way from a communication perspective with TAMC to convene some conversation and education and information sharing so that folks know what we're facing, why we're facing it, and can help us with that advocacy piece would be important sooner rather than later. Thanks.
Yeah, just to speak to Mayor Oglesby's point, working with my colleagues around the state, whether it's a trolley line in San Diego, BRT Van Ness line in San Francisco, for electrification of our own transit fleet. These types of issues, whether it's PG&E, Southern California Edison, San Diego Gas and Electric, it permeates this industry, creates surprises just like this. I can guarantee you that from my experience that this was not on staff or their consultants, because this is an issue that is all throughout the state and really all throughout the nation as we deal with these utilities and moving towards, especially as we move towards electrification of our fleets. So, that doesn't necessarily change the cost, but I just want to let you know, this same discussion is happening at transportation agencies all around the state because I hear it from my peers.
Yes, thank you. And I appreciate the presentation here. To be honest, I was thinking that this was dead on water before I came in here, so it's glad to see that we have a ray of hope. I had a couple of questions. One is just a suggestion. We've already expended some money on this project. I want to know how much money we've actually expended, if not now, maybe in the next meeting when we come in, just to showcase the board that so much money has already gone into the project, which will help make the board make the right decision. Second thing is there was a remark in here about 60% of the relocation has been addressed, but what about the other 40%? Is that going to come in back to us?
So 60% relocation plans have been received from all utility companies. Is that correct? Did I make it sound like only 40% of 100% of the plans needed? Is that what?
So the slide said 60% relocation plans have been received. It doesn't appear 100% have been received. And so does that mean like we're looking at a 40% overrun?
Or is that a level of design?
That's a level of design. So 60% design relocation plans have been received. So I had mentioned that PG&E is now going out and doing their recon exploratory work, right? And that's the progression from their 60% plans to a increased percentage of design plans, leading up to execution of a UA agreement or an underground utility agreement. I don't know if that answers.
I'm just trying that 60% number with any future cost number. So it will the remaining 40% for that not receiving it. Will that factor into an additional cost in the future?
Now, the cost that they're giving, so the current cost that they are giving us utility, that 25 million dollar increase would include all work that they need to be able to do to get their work done. So to get them from their 60% plans to their 100% plans, UA agreements in place, and then the actual physicality of relocating the line. So there shouldn't be any, the cost increase that we've gotten from PG&E shouldn't go up from what we've got. However, it's my understanding when these UA agreements get executed that there is verbiage in the UA agreement that talks about overages up to 20% of what the dollar amount in the UA agreement is. There's some details there that I would have to do some further research on. But again, just another way, like we're talking about PG&E and about how they develop their cost, then that they also include that in their UA agreements at the time of execution. So anyway, a challenge there that could be foreseen, but the cost that they're giving us would include them to get to their 100% to do their utility relocation plan as we see it right now.
Okay, well, one of the things that Todd mentioned was that the future proposal will take care of additional increases if they come in for the grant structure. So I think that's actually good news for me. So if we actually win that grant, we're able to address the incremental cost of funds that's correct.
That's my understanding.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so looking around, Dave?
One of the things that's changed here years ago, when we used to go for the transportation commission, and we'd ask for money, they'd say, what do you put in locally? Didn't have anything to put in locally. Now we've got $1 million committed basically to this project. That's universally accepted programming. I mean, we all love the project, but we, for a diverse community like this, that has such a diverse constituency, to have universal support for this project, and then to pledge the monies locally, I think makes a big difference.
So I'm sensing a general direction from this board to continue forward with option 2 as was presented. I think the one piece I want to just kind of give a little pushback on, I appreciate and I'm supportive, but that idea that nothing falls off. But by moving towards the million, there are other regional needs, right, that we've talked about that would have been our stretch efforts that do fall. So I just, as we look at overall policies moving forward with those expected overages over time, I think understanding that for us as a board is critically important. But I agree that this has always been at, if not near the top of the list in terms of a priority project for the vast majority of everybody around the table, understanding the impact to our entire region and our future needs. So I remain committed and supportive of that. But generally, I think that's the direction we have around the table, unless I'm hearing any other pieces, any final words. All right. So hearing that, I think staff has direction to proceed forward with this. I'm going to open this up for public input at this time. So if there's any public input on this item. See nobody in room, no hands up via Zoom. We'll close the public input part of this presentation. And so with that, we've concluded item 6. Thank you very much for all your help on this. And we'll proceed forward with item 7, which is to receive reports from our transportation providers. And we'll start with Caltrans if we have the Kevlar on.
Yeah. So again, Dave Silverberger here on behalf of Scott Eads. Don't have a lot to go over other than wanted to mention that Paul's slide. Obviously, most everybody knows about that massive slide that's on Highway 1. We had indicated that we were shooting for late spring for a full reopening, and just wanted to mention that the latest storms and rains have not altered that. It hasn't been so significant that it's pulling us off course. And I think that's probably pretty good news because it's been a long time with Highway 1 being closed like that. Also, engineers are outside of the Big Sur River today. Apparently, there's some concrete blocks that protect the highway that have come loose, and so they're looking to make sure that the highway stays together there. And in general, I'll just finish with obviously as we head through the winter season. Our maintenance staff and engineers are on high alert for anything having to do with the highway. So far, so good this year. We haven't had storms that are, devastating. And we'll keep our fingers crossed that that doesn't happen. So with that, I'll do my remarks.
Any comments for Caltrans? I'll just briefly share, I know we lost a life earlier this week on Highway 101 at Spence Road. It's part of the project area for SOS, the SOS project, which is the South of Salinas Improvement Project. So I know it's something we're working on together, but I think it's just once again, it's important to the news for our communities. There was a young man from Soledad who lost his life. And so our prayers go out to that family, and we just ask for continued support in moving that project as quickly as possible. Thank you. All right, so with that, we'll proceed forward to Monterey Airport. I see Carl Miller on Zoom. Carl, any words for us today? I don't know that your microphone.
Can you hear me?
We got you.
Can you hear me okay?
We can. We can hear you, Carl.
You're coming over a little. You're.
All right.
Can you hear me now?
We can. All right, we're gonna invite
Thank
Carl
you.
for we'll come back to you. We'll go to Carl Sador at this point with MST.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Good.
That one's coming in rough.
That's just the way it looks.
So, we have, February 7th, MST will be, implementing some service improvements, especially in Salinas between, West Ridge and downtown Salinas, as well as Tividat. Downtown Salinas will be increasing frequency of service as well as extending hours of service. So we'll be putting more information out, or go to mst.org or follow us on social media, get more information. Another change is we'll be adding some service back to the main center of campus at Monterey Peninsula College. This is due to comments that we've heard since the implementation of the Better Bus Network. We're continuing to fine tune there as well. Real quickly, on February 10th, we will be conducting a pop-up public workshop on the surf at the proposed 5th Street station, which is at Quartermaster and 5th Street near First Avenue. And we'll be this will be from 10 a.m. till noon on Saturday, February 10th, so that members of the public are interested in knowing how that 5th Street station will be laid out. There's particular interest in what will happen to some of the trees and the eucalyptus trees and whatnot in the city of Marina. So we're holding that pop-up for the community to provide input and to be educated on that matter as well. And then finally, we did a little event. You may have seen it on the news where we invited our board of directors. We had about a half a dozen show up to take our bus driving skills course and roll over a whole bunch of orange cones. That resulted in basically a 3-minute commercial for MST recruitment on KSBW News that evening, and it generated about 30 applications, and we were able to get 25 offers made, and we are looking forward to being fully staffed for the first time since COVID. So anyway, that's what we have. I'll have the applause. I don't we'll stick with the applause. Thanks.
All right, so politicians driving poorly is a great way to have it.
Sure for us.
Supervisor Church, any comments on the removal of eucalyptus? Just.
No.
All right. Any other? I know. All right, so hearing no additional comments for MST here, we'll proceed forward with MBARD. I don't see anybody in the room, but I saw we had somebody via Zoom. They may have stepped off. He's there.
Sean.
Yes, good morning. Sean Boyle here with MBARD in for Richard Stedman. Good morning. 2 things I'd like to touch on what MBARD is doing. We are currently getting our awarded grants out, contracts for our AB 2766. So I'll touch on that a little bit. That is DMV vehicle registration funds. We get $4 for that. Received from Monterey, San Benito, and Santa Cruz counties. It gives incentives for the development of transportation-related emission reduction projects. So for this grant cycle, we have some for the airport, we have EV replacements for some trucks out there. There's some zero emission vehicle funds for MST. And we also have some roundabout funds associated with the construction there in King City, as well as Loralis Grade and Carmel Valley Road. And also for the Sand City multi-trail and bike path as well. Another thing I'd like to touch on is the MBARD e-bike incentive program. So this started out as a $50,000 fund there for people to purchase a class 1, class 2, or class 3 electric bike. It started off as a low income program. And at the time we got 9 applications for that, where 9 were rejected. And then on December 20th, our board upped the incentive amount to $750. And since then, we've gotten 40 applications for that. And right now, the remaining funding in that program is around $15,000. So just wanted to give you an update on those 2 things.
Thank you, Sean. Any input from board members? All right, hearing none, we'll go back one more time and see if we don't have a better connection with our folks at the airport. Carl?
Well, I hope you can hear me.
We can.
Great. Things are proceeding at the airport with our new terminal plan. This is probably going to take 4 to 5 years and $170 million to fully complete. A lot of dominoes that have to go down. We contracted with Granite Construction to do the ramp. They did the demolition of our old fire station. We still are waiting on the plans for the new terminal and selecting a construction company to build that for us. So again, 4 to 5 years, and payments at the airports are strong. We're at about $300,000 a year, which is good, quite an increase. And we hope to add additional service for the community.
All right, thank you, Carl. Any questions for Carl? See no one in room, we'll go ahead and see if there's any public input on item 7. See nobody in room, no hands up via Zoom, we'll close public input on item 7. Proceed forward to 8, reports on meetings attended by board members at transportation agency expense. Anything to report, sir? Hearing and seeing none, we'll conclude item 8. Well, I'll take public input on item 8. Hearing none, we'll conclude item 8. We'll go to our executive director's report.
Thank you. Mentioned briefly before, but the Engine Road Improvement Project, which is one of the Measure X regional projects that the city of Marina is the implementing agency, is continues to move forward. There's utility work that's going on right now, and the actual start of construction is currently scheduled for February 5th, and that's still weather dependent. So we'll see how that goes, but we're getting very close. The bid opening for the Four Regional Trail and Greenway Canyon Del Rey segment is been pushed out a little bit, but that will be February 15th when we're looking for getting the bids for construction. So that's getting very close. And then I would like to conclude with something fun, which you have a flyer on the dais, which is the Salinas Sidewalk Art Elections. And this is a project that TAMC staff is working on in partnership with the city of Salinas and California Clean Air Grant. And the voting occurs, it started January 22nd through February 1st. There are 5 different sidewalk art routes that folks can vote on their favorite art for. And then the voting is online where there's QR code that's on the flyer. While technically the voting is open to Salinas residents age 5 and above, I think there's not really any limit for anyone in California, in Monterey County. So vote if you'd like.
All right, any questions for Todd? Hearing seeing none, any public input on that presentation, item 9? Hearing and seeing none, we'll proceed forward with announcements and or comments from members about matters they wish to put on future agency agendas. Seeing none, we'll conclude item 10 and sensing a consensus for adjournment, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.